on the people who don't vote, the point that you made, that just worries me so much, and I do have to stop myself short of making my suffragette speech to people on the doorstep when they say they're not going to vote. Oh, I've started to hear other people doing that, which is good. And what we did find, what was really interesting, was in predominantly the poorer parts of both Whitehall and Walscombe, we were discovering people who wanted to vote that had never voted before. And I wish I could get to the bottom of that shift. And for some of them, it was a very specific policy issue, like the bedroom tax or something. For others, it was a bit like when people can't read and write and they don't want to admit they can't read and write. After a little bit of digging, we discovered that some people did not understand the process of voting and they were embarrassed about going to the polling station. And once we'd learned to spot the signs of somebody actually trying to say that to us but not directly saying it, we did actually start talking through people on the doorstep how to vote and actually say, if you haven't done it before, are you okay going down there? And I have to say that I think the postal vote system is still far too complex. We had a lot of very confused, particularly older people, getting confused with different envelopes. They were trying to drop them off to the office. We would say, no, you can't take them into the office. I'm not even allowed to touch the postal votes. But I think predominantly the people that aren't voting don't feel that the changes that each government will make would be significantly different. I think that's the bit that really worries me, which goes back to what we talked about earlier. I think that to what level are we creating demarcation lines between ourselves and the Tories that are clear enough to actually lever people out to go and vote, and the only way to do it is to be coming up with something that is a very bold vision, that is very clear, and to just keep banging home the communication, like repeat messaging we talked about earlier. On the electoral reform, I mean, I'm in favour of electoral reform. I know there's different views. I think we need to get a debate going about that again. Ed said it wouldn't be at the top of his list of priorities. There's a lot of other things we've got to sort out first. I'm in favour of it, and I think we can save ourselves a lot of pain, particularly in the south, if we did something about that now, because I think the south at the moment is lost to us, and we have to do something about that. And I would like to know if electoral reform would help us in some way, because our battles on the doorstep, and it felt like battles sometimes from one doorstep to another. Are you going to vote Green? Are you going to vote Labour? And interestingly, linking it to your point, Nathan, about young people, I found people were actually sometimes, particularly young people, easier to switch between Greens and Labour than I expected them to be, because they didn't want the Tories in. That was a relatively easy vote to get. What was much harder was where people really identified with being in the Green Party, and it was kind of voting with a heavy heart, or we had to give them another reason to vote. What worried me was a slightly selfish attitude on the part of people who said to me, I'm going to vote Green and I would rather have 5 years, another 5 years of austerity. That completely contradicts what you say you stand for. And I don't get my head around that at all, because and it's a very selfish position to take. So I did end up getting quite ranty on the doorstep with some people that you would rather then we had more kids sofa surfing in the city on 0 hours contracts because they can't afford anywhere to live. You'd rather have people that can't afford to pay their bills sleeping on the beach because you want to hold on to your green pride. Are you serious? And that really, really worries me. And the whip, God, they're obsessed with whips in the Green Party. Jeremy's going to have to expand on this because the nicest possible way. But in terms of how it works, because I'm constantly hammered by people saying, well, you say that, Nancy, but you'll be whipped. Now, I know people do rebel occasionally, and like Jeremy, and I welcome that, but I do also wonder whether that's something the Labour Party leadership has to look at within the Parliamentary Labour Party, is the whip system. If we had more free voting, could we have MPs then who are more independently minded, that could then go onto their own platform? Would it actually make it easier for us to get elected in marginal seats? I think our marginal seat strategy was dire. I don't think it did fully address the concerns that people had. And if we truly want to win marginal seats, we're going to have to work a lot harder at how we go about doing that, because keeping our core vote in certain Labour heartlands is not going to be enough to win us another election, and we need some recognition and discussion of that. And what is interesting about the Green Labour vote and the switchers and what you said about voting Green is that's a difficult conversation conversation we have to have. If you add up the progressive votes within some constituencies, you could have a progressive MP. Let's forget what colour they are. You would be certainly getting your progressive MP. And that's going to be a really tough conversation for us to have about how we manage that. And it is going to require a level of compromise. But what is interesting, and goes back to the very start of the conversation we had today, is that the traditional Labour policies are what was appealing to the more progressive vote, what I would require, the more progressive voters on the doorstep. And to keep losing those traditional Labour policies has been of detriment to us, particularly in Brighton Pavilion. I have to say, having fought that seat, I know that to be the case. And if you don't stand on a traditional Labour platform in Brighton Pavilion or in Brighton Kent Town, I wonder how many more votes you would lose. Because I do think it is the left appeal that is missing. I don't think swinging towards progress and towards right is the answer. I think it is that more traditional appeal, and it's how we pull that together in such a way that actually it would keep the Tories out. And that's going to require a lot of debate. That's kind of my summary, I guess. And can I just say I really welcome the chance for this meeting to get a few things off my chest as well. Because I've not really had the chance, apart from the people that have been able to sit in the pub with me over a drink, and while I kind of rant on about what we got wrong. So it's been really nice. Thank you everyone for listening. That's really kind.